through his son Yeshua the Messiah. Amen. Alright, we're going to get into Vayikra chapter 17. Right. So, right. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. 17 is pretty much very self-explanatory. So we're going to read through it. We'll discuss it and then we'll go from there, right? Okay. Why is funny conclusions making? Right. Adonai said to Moshe, speak to Aaron and to his sons and the people of Israel. Tell them that this is what Adonai has ordered. Okay? Nothing unusual to what every portion or every chapter that's been going on about. Right? I will remind you. We have just come out of Yom Kippur. Okay? Now all of a sudden, in all of his wisdom, he goes, this is how you're going to atone for all your sins and everything and all this brokenness. And then God ordains again. Tell Aaron and tell the people of Israel. Tell them that this is what Adonai has ordered. When someone from the community of Israel slaughters an ox, lamb, or goat inside or outside the camp, without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting, to present it as an offering to Adonai before the tabernacle of Adonai, he is to be charged with blood. He has shed blood, and the person is to be cut off from his people. Pause for a second. Why?
Because he's taken up the priesthood, and he's not a priest. And he's also doing wise to trying to do his own sacrifice and cover himself.
Alright,
Okay.
okay. So number one, you've got a priesthood that you work on the Sabbath. Okay, remember. And it is the priest that will be able to take the sin and knows how to cut it, subdivide it, sort it out, and all the rest of it. You as a layman, a non-trained Levite, you are not exactly sure which part goes where, and all the rest of it. Number one. So you're not going to make the sacrifice. Two, if you go, what's the most important what's the most important part of the sacrifice? What goes furthest in the tabernacle? The blood. So if I sacrifice the blood outside of the camp, that is not going to atone for anything in God's house. So what am I doing? Offering it up to whoever else. Okay? This is a big thing where it comes in when you start looking at like the split between the Samaritans and the Jewish folk is that they still wanted to make offerings and sacrifice up on their high places, on their hilltops and all the rest of it. And they don't believe in the prophets, so to a point they follow Torah. Okay? But at the same time, they would sit there and they would go, yeah, but you told us we're only going to sacrifice at the temple. This is where it's coming from. Okay, where before this, Abraham would go up to a high place and he would make an offering. But it was an offering of thanksgiving, it was a joyous thing. And now he's sitting here and going, no, I've ordained a priesthood. This is how you are going to atone. This is what we're going to do. And remember, by whatever offering you give, the kohanim, the priests, eat. So you're literally denying them food. Never mind the fact is, I don't even know who you're sacrificing to. You turn around and you're making your own offering, and before long, oh well, that God seems to listen to me more than this God, so I'll do the same thing over there. Okay? So he's centralizing the heart of the sacrificial system. He says, you do it in my presence, because the point of any sacrifice is to do what?
Well, something
Yes?
Well, something like that offerings is dedication.
What's the heart of the offering system?
Draw yourself to God.
To draw yourself closer to God. And if you're not having a God-centered offering, what are you doing? Okay? You're trying to make it your own way. You're trying to do your things, alright? So he says, I'm going to hold the blood of that animal against you. Okay? And you will be cut off from the people. Now we stop and we think that's pretty harsh. Notice what is going on here. God is the center of the people. His camp, his tabernacle, the Mishkan, is in the center of the camp. Who is king of camp? And if you don't want to acknowledge the king and you go outside, who are you acknowledging? What are you doing? What are you saying? I leave this thing or I'll do it my way. Remember, we have to be very careful. You heard me say it again. There's your truth, my truth, and the truth. If God has said, do it this way, why do I feel the need that I have to kick up against what God is saying and do it my way? Okay? You know, it's that principle-orientated stuff. Alright? You need a sabbatical principle, you don't need to keep Shabbat on the right day. As long as you rest one day a week, it's okay. It's a half truth. Alright? We need to understand that if you belong to the king and you belong to the nation of Israel, you abide by the kingdom's rules. You as an heir to the throne who is going to be the next king, or in a sense, you're an heir because of Yeshua, you surely are going to uphold the statutes and the standards that your father has put in place. Are you not? Or are you going to let anarchy reign and do whatever you want because that system just doesn't work for me? The king stands forever. You will uphold his ordinances, okay? So it says, well, if you want to shed blood outside of the camp for some other reason other than to serve me, you do not belong to the people. For the simple reason is that if you belong to the God of Israel, you become Israel. If you don't want to be part of Israel, you cannot have that God. You want to serve, go and serve him. You don't belong to me anymore. We have to be very careful who you want to serve. Yeah?
But this is specifically dealing with sacrifice. It's not you're hungry, you slaughter something outside to eat. This is particularly with people going out to make that sacrifice.
To make that an offering, yes. Okay? You must be very careful. Right? You cannot sit with one foot in the world and one foot outside. You cannot sit with, well, I'll do it God's way 50% of the time and my way the other time. It doesn't work.
You cannot serve two masters.
You cannot serve two masters. You'll love the other one and you'll hate the other. Right? The reason for this is so that the people of Israel will bring their sacrifice out in the field, so that they will bring them to Adonai at the entrance of the tent of meeting, to the Kohen, and to sacrifice them as peace offerings to Adonai. That there's nothing that is between us. The Kohen will splash the blood against the altar of Adonai at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and make the fat go up in smoke as a pleasing aroma of Adonai. Basically, as I have ordained it. That might not make that much sense to you, but it is the way I want things done. No longer will they offer sacrifices to the goat demons, you start to see. Before they have prostituted themselves. This is a permanent regulation for them through all their generations. A permanent regulation. Again, I will say this doesn't say until Yeshua comes. Until the Messiah appears. I have got no problem, if there was a temple today, I would have no problem giving a thanksgiving offering, paying a portion of first fruits, going to the place where God had set up. I will, however, say if you go there with a sin offering or a guilt offering, you are wasting your time. Does that make sense? We came to offer up so that we will not have to deal with that sin. We have a better sacrifice that atones for us. But as an offering of saying, going up to God and you saying, look, God, look what you've done in my business. Look, I'm giving some of this to you. And I want to acknowledge you in that. And I stand over there and I put this down in front of you. As you are over there, I've got no problem with it. We'll have many different commentaries to say that, you know what, Yeshua fulfilled every single sacrifice in one way, shape, form, or another. Okay? As in now we don't have to worry about the sacrificial system in a whole. I'm not so sure. Sin and guilt offering, absolutely. But you know what? Giving a tithe to, giving my first fruits to God. You know, he was first fruits offering. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I can walk up to God and I can celebrate with him and I can go and put this down at his altar and say, Baruch Hashem, look what you've done. How is that a bad thing? Okay?
So sorry, Vince. So now, with the lack of the temple, what's your logic on that tithe?
I think we have to go back to the principles when there wasn't a temple. Okay? Abraham would have, you know, well, let me think about it. Abraham paid a tithe over to Melchizedek, right? He gave a portion to him to honor God and that he was a high priest. Okay? But when we start breaking down what it says in Torah about the different types of tithes, okay, you've got different tithes for different things. You've got You've got a tithe for the Levites, so that the guys are going, you guys can check on this, I'm running on memory, yeah? That you would go and you would take care of the kohanim that are not working in the temple at the time. Okay, so you could say this in a modern day scenario, maybe there's a pastor or something like that and you want to support their ministry and help them buy food. This is maybe some place where you could say, I give a portion to you because I want you to keep on doing what you're doing. Okay? Another portion is that you obviously look at the widow and orphan. Okay? Those unfortunate and destitute around you. Okay? And then you also have the third portion is when you start looking at your community. I find, I don't know, it's been my experience, that sometimes God will put it on your heart, say now, Joyce Meyer's got you. Okay? She does good things with money, she's got that whole ministry where she goes and sets up schools of drinking water and all the rest of it and helps these people. If you feel that God wants you to help support that, I would say, in a sense, kind of falls into that bracket. Okay? Widow and orphan, anybody who's looking after those sort of people, you know, like Uncle Grant or Sharon, that sort of institution where you can go out and you can say, look, I think a portion of my salary needs to go to look after that because that is a specific calling in ministry. Maybe you know of people in your circle, and this is the biggest one I find. God has a tendency to say, all right, I'm going to surround you with people and you have a responsibility to look at your community first. Okay? Sometimes he will say you're driving along the road and then he'll say, stop and give that guy 20 bucks. Okay? It's not always the case. But that stop and give that guy 20 bucks might answer a prayer that he's answering and he's asking God, are you real? Please, if you're real, I need money for bread today. I will give up, I will stop all my nonsense, I will stop my drinking, I will stop my drugs or whatever else I got into that situation and say, all I want for you to show me is that you're real. And you stop and you go, don't really know you, but here's money. Okay? That takes discernment. Okay? That takes God poking you in the right areas and you being obedient for a specific end. It doesn't happen all the time. Okay? But what I find is that there's people you know of that are struggling in your community. Alright? Put yourself in the scenario, let's go public. You're standing in Capernaum, there's 2,000 people. Okay? Roughly plus minus in your shortest time. Okay? 2,000 people, that's not that many families. You're growing up with these people, you see them, you're all working together as a community. You've got the fishermen out doing their thing, you've got the guys getting the basalt rock, you've got the guys worrying about the olive oil, you're running around and you're doing this thing. And as a community, you're trying to make enough money or you're trying to get enough food so that you can support the community. All of a sudden, in Capernaum, remember there was a story about a guy with a hand that was withered. Okay? His hands doesn't work. So he cannot go and be a fisherman because you're literally about dragging nets. He's not sitting there with a rod. Okay? It's hard, arduous labor. He needs to be able to pull the nets in. He can't cast properly. Maybe his arm was withered all the way up to you. Okay? He can't exactly go and help. Well, he might be able to go and help pick olives, but only to a point. So now all of a sudden we know that as a community, this guy is physically unable to do this, but it's our responsibility to make sure he's going with food. Okay? So we would be able to say, okay, an allotted person, or say now, in that another instance, you have a widow, she's lost her, she doesn't have an heir, or she doesn't have a son to be able to negotiate with the traders and all the rest of it. She's literally destitute. She cannot trade, she cannot go out in the market, she needs to be looked after. I know the situation, I know the person, I know what they're going to do with that money. Okay? Do with that money, do with the food, whatever God puts on your heart to give. And what you would do is, as a community, you would come together and you would say, okay, look, I have allotted a portion. Right? And there is a biblical principle, a biblical argument to be made of saying, okay, a tithe is a tenth. Okay? We get that from, you won't exactly say the tenth of your first fruits, but when it came to the flocks and the sheep and things like that, every 10th one belonged to God. Okay? So, there was an argument made where depending on which portion you were looking at, there was like the first of, therefore that would be dedicated to. But when you started counting in, it would be the 10th of that you would also dedicate to God. So the principle is there. So you take a 10th, for argument's sake, of what you earn. Okay, money in your pocket. Alright? I personally feel that that's, not your gross income, but your net. Alright? Taxman has taken his portion already. What you get paid out into your account and you say, I take a tenth of that, I want you to, I would advise you, if you feel that you need to tithe, you take that money, you put it on the side. And the point of this whole issue is very simple. I am giving this because I know that God will sustain me throughout the month. I know this is what He has given me. Without God, I would not have a salary. Without God, I would not have a place of work. Without God, I would have nothing. So by taking my portion and saying, this is to God, I'm actually acknowledging to God that I know that you are the one who gave me this. I'm acknowledging that, and that to me is the same heart as going to the temple with crops. Okay, you take your first fruit offering, you drop it down over there, you say, these are the first fruits. I'm trusting that the harvest is going to be enough and it's going to last me. I'm not hoarding the first fruits. I'm giving it to you. So again, the principle could be argued that don't take the money you have at the end of the month to give to God.
Can I make an example? For example, the woman that gave a little
Jewish mite.
Jewish mite. She received a commendation because of what she did. And I think that is maybe tying in with what you are saying, that she offered something in trusting that she's giving it up for the cause that she believes in, and she trusts that He will take care of her throughout the month, where the other guys just give up the abundance. So I think on the 10th, I think just saying I give the 10th, that's not the heart of the matter. I think the heart is I give and I trust in you.
That, and it's a heart of worship. God does not need your tithe. Let me tell you straight, He invented diamonds and gold and all the rest of it. He'll get by just fine. But the blessing you receive by acknowledging God, and it's not always a financial back. Don't get me wrong, you'll get these guys out there that'll say, if you give this, you'll receive it 100-fold. So you guys are rushing out to the bank and you go, well, I've only got 1,500, but I'm going to drop $1,000 because I want 10 grand next week. And then they get broken because the 10 grand never comes. You said that He'd look after me. God obviously doesn't exist. No, you gave it the wrong intention. You gave it the wrong heart. It is me acknowledging that I would not be able to put food in front of my table. Every month when I get paid, I always have to stop and think. And, Baruch Hashem for this, because we go through the ups and downs where sometimes payday comes and it's like transfer ping, and other times it's like, I need to pay my house, right? But He never let you down. And there's money there, and He keeps it keeps me very centered, which I'm very grateful for. Is that I know without a doubt that that is given to me because He knows that I need a roof over my head, I need food on my table, I need to pay bills, and He's honoring His side of the bargain as long as I keep to Him. It's a wonderful. And I'm able to go with my little portion, or my portion, and I immediately go, okay, this is how much I move that over, and I say, oh my God, show me where it needs to go. And I look for opportunities. Someone will come in and go, oh, guys, got some unexpected bills, it's pretty harsh. Oh, Christian. And then you make the sneaky. Okay? Don't make like Pharisees. Right? Remember, they used to blow trumpets and walking in the street, and he would pull out his tithe money and he go, hey!
What a nice guy.
This guy's awesome, and everyone would have him because he's a Sadiq, he's giving, there's a wonderful Hebrew phrase when you go over there and you get these guys collecting for orphans and widows that run around, and you're sitting at the wall and they walk up to you and they go, tzedekah, tzedekah. Now, Sadiq is a righteous person, so they want you to give righteousness. What they're asking for you is a portion of your money. And the crazy thing is about, when you start talking about money, probably because Christianity has pushed us a little too far. I understand if you have a massive church and you've got bills to pay and your pastor wants, he has to get food, and it's maybe easier to get everybody to sign a debit order when you join. Okay? I don't know if that's so much giving with the excited heart of coming up to you and going, here we go, here's my portion, Baruch Hashem, you looked after me this month. They would literally sign, say, what's your salary, bring me your slip. Okay, the 10 says this, boom, 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 sign it, all you got, please, we'll take it for money. Thank you, love you, bye. And maybe that works because they're running a massive ship. You know, you're talking about millions and millions and millions of rands for a church the sizes that these guys talk, and you're talking about looking after their salaries and all the rest of it. Me, I don't know, I'm not in that situation. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that works for them. So the essence though comes in when you literally, like I said, God doesn't need you. He wants you to acknowledge Him, and He wants you to take that portion, and He wants you to go, Baruch Hashem. This is an opportunity to acknowledge Him. And when you go to Israel, you know, you're standing over there, they literally say, okay, a portion of my tzedekah that I have to give out. You know, I'll give you one story. I'll give you two. One, you literally see people, they take their tzedekah, they take their money. If they only have 10 shekel to give out that day, that's what they need. They have a portion that they have to give, they take that money, they put it readily available, so they can pull it out at a notice. And you're walking, you won't see a lot of beggars in Jerusalem and stuff like that. When you walk around, you will literally see, you know, it's nice because you see a lot of Orthodox guys doing it. When you're walking in, they keep on walking as if nothing happened. And you will see them, they will stop. You're 100 meters away and they see some old lady sitting over there in the corner. She's destitute. And they would just casually cross the street, bypass a few things, over here, stop, step, big, shalom and carry on. They would make sure their money was so available and so ready. They would cross the road to make sure that that person leaves. Here we cross the road to avoid the person on the other side. We do. We see someone and we're like, wind up the window, smile. No, I don't like it. I don't want you. It's not funny. And he's so completely backwards. You know, we've been sitting talking about this, and you know, Tanya was saying, you know, look, I'm very nervous about giving money to some of these guys because I have passed a few of them standing in the corner popping out of bottle stores. The guy is sitting completely destitute, but he just bought a bottle of whiskey. I'm like, yeah, probabilities guy. There's something wrong with it. You're not getting money from me again.
Maybe it's best just to have a whole bunch of loaves of bread in there.
And that's what Tanya was doing as well. We literally stopped at an engine, not just telling you a story, to go and get bread, come back and go and drop it off and then run away. Rather that, if God has put it on your heart to help this person. But I find most of the time, God touches you at your community. Look and keep your ears open. You have put your portion aside and you're saying, okay, God, what am I doing? Lord, who needs this? Because someone is going to be there, and you're going to be talking to someone, and if you don't know someone, you stop and you go talk to someone, you go, do you know anybody who's going through a rough time? Yes. Jolly good. Bank details. Transfer. They don't know it's from you. Send it. And you start to take care of your community that way. Okay? But you give with a joyous heart. And, you know, this is one cool story that Amazing shared. It was one of the links, I think, at Currency. She said, you know, some of the miracles that are taking place in Israel are ridiculous now, extreme, underneath the persecution and all the rest of it, with the people trying to stab everybody and shoot everybody, crazy people. Nothing unusual for Israel, guys. This is part of the course. Okay? So, shalom. And then they get there, okay? And this lady took money and she said, I have 10 shekel, and a 10 shekel coin is about that big, but it's like that big. Okay? And she took it and she put it into her top pocket and she was driving, knowing her husband. She's saying, "As much as the car, I will open up the door," and what happened? A crazy Arab person who screams infidel and yada yada akbar and what, pulls out a gun and just starts spraying the car with bullets. He missed everything except one bullet. One bullet actually went straight and it took aim. And it hit this woman right on the heart. And what happened was, that 10 shekel coin actually wrapped around the bullet, and it made a light bruise. God protected her because she was being righteous, in a sense.
But that's only God, because that point should have gone right through it.
Sure, but again, it's because, you know, I stop and I think, but isn't the heart of this woman right? You know? God could have protected him completely. You know, there was another story just to share. This guy says these are miracles you'll never hear about in mainstream media. And he says, you know, it was crazy. This other lady as well, this guy comes in, terrorist, he jumps in and he bashes open the door and he's there to this lady and her 4 children, and eventually she she fought this guy out the house and what, and the cops come in and go, how is this woman and her kids still alive? How? They caught the terrorist and they interviewed him. He said, oh no, I forgot to put the bullets in the gun. The rabbi's a little bit, he's a IDF battalion commander, so he's very patriotic, so he says, I'd like to say this guy, these people that we're dealing with are just stupid, but I know better. Miracle after miracle after miracle. That takes place over this. I found it very fascinating that this woman's heart was so for God, that God used something so simple as taking a 10 shekel coin and putting it here, ready to give to someone, to glorify God. And that is the very same 10 shekel coin that literally saved the life of a Christian. Okay? So when it comes to tithing, guys, go to God every month. Take your portion and move it out. Get it out of your bank account, because let's face it, what's not in your bank account you don't miss anyway. Move it across and you say to God, open up the door and show me who needs this. And let God work. You will touch so many hearts and so many things that you need to. And He's the one who knows who needs what. Okay? So, for me, if that answers your question, okay, happiness is.
Thanks, man.
Cool. Verse 18, okay. Also tell them, when someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you offers a burnt offering or sacrifice, without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to Adonai, that person will be cut off from his people. Even the foreigner living among you is held by the same Torah. It's not a Jewish thing, it's a God thing. Okay? When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you eats any kind of blood, it's not kosher. What does kosher mean? No, that's kadosh.
Like done the right way. Healthy.
Tamai, done the right way, you're on the right track, but it's a literal word. Proper. It is not killed properly. It is not proper food.
Doesn't follow the principle.
It is unclean. This is proper. So we use the word kosher for food,
People.
generally speaking, and people. Watch it, that's not kosher, eh? What are you talking about? The action was not kosher, it was not done properly, it's not done in accordance with what we should be doing. Okay? So if you eat any kind of blood, and remember when we spoke about the killing of the animals, you have to cut the blood, you have to catch the blood. The blood is what is going into the altar. It's literally their life that is atoning for your life, number one. Number two, if you strangle that animal, remember we spoke about Acts 15. The blood is not drained, it actually stays in the system. And thus gets pushed more into the meat, so when it's not drained properly. Okay? You are eating of more and more. Okay? I will set myself against that person who eats blood and cuts him off from his people. For the life of the creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make atonement for yourselves. For it is the blood that makes atonement because of the life. This is what I told the people of Israel. None of you is to eat the blood, nor is any foreigner living with you to eat the blood. I do think God is pretty serious about this blood thing.
Because you repeat a lot.
You think? Two things we need to think of here as well. One, pagan practice. Very good. Pagan practice means if I take this animal, I drain its blood, I drink this blood, I become like said animal. You want to be as strong like bull? Just drink the blood of said animal and you will be strong like bull. What they don't know is that most of the foulest diseases known to man travel through blood. So if that animal has something that is so incurable and so kaka and all the rest of it, and you're doing the same thing, whether it's a clean animal or not, it is not for you. It will literally kill you. Okay? God has practical application as well as Stop and look at the pagan practices which you're going to. He's preparing you for them. Alright? Another thing I want to ask you, how many of you like red meat? I'm talking about what they call a blue steak. Yeah, it's that, colourful horns chased through the fire, and then, the point where the blue, where a vet is probably, if he's a good vet, he'll have all the life. It's literally slightly cooked on out, slightly cooked, and it's raw in the middle. That's unkosher. Okay? You will never go to a kosher restaurant and you will never be able to go, I want red. He will look at you and he will look at the sign of kashrut on the door and then he will smile, he'll go off and he'll bring you a steak that has, at best, a slight sliver of pink. Okay? As much as even today in the standards, when they kill the animal and they drain the blood, there is still blood in the flesh. You have to cook it through for you to fulfill that need. Don't run around eating raw pieces of steak, because there is, even though, and I've had this reaffirmed with a guy who was the chief inspector for KwaZulu-Natal, health inspector, says it's not only the plasma that is in the meat, there is still blood within that flesh. They have to make sure that that stuff is trained to the point. And even when it is trained properly, okay, you have to cook it through.
Then why not for eating the blood that's in the meat?
Right. No, because you cooked it out.
It depends on rice.
Okay? Yeah.
Heat burns it up.
It cooks it out. The thing is when it is still of that flesh. Okay?
Because when it cooks, it comes out.
It's not in the center. Alright. Alright? Biltong is dried out. Okay, it's the same in Yeshua's time they used to do that. They literally used to take the fish, and because fish obviously couldn't be kept over there, they would salt it and season it, and they would hang it up, and it would become like fish turkey type of thing, fish biltong. Okay? But red biltong.
If it's cooked out and you're using it as a gravy.
No, it's not cooked. It has to be completely cooked. It's the same as, when you go to a kosher restaurant, I saw this, the chef doing this thing on some sort of Israeli television or whatever. They took an egg and they cracked it open in a glass and they saw a little bit of blood in the yolk, and he threw the egg out, and then he said, that's not kosher. But if you're eating it raw, it's not kosher. But if you're cooking it, okay, you're not consuming the blood. That portion is going out. Okay? So be careful, do not eat the redness that is the red meat, or any meat really, because God takes it pretty seriously.
No? When we got lamb from the kosher butchery the one time, and then we got lamb from another butchery, and we cooked a stew with it, and I didn't taste the difference, but Nick's good with meat, so he could actually taste, even after it was cooked together in all the soupy stuff and everything, he could taste which was the one from the kosher butcher. The lamb tastes so different to the lamb that's in our shops that we used to, because I think they stick it in salt water to help draw it out as well. It actually tastes better. The meat tastes better when it's actually cooked, prepared properly as well. I wish there was a kosher butcher around as well, because the meat tastes so nice. It doesn't have that strong smell to it, and even the mince, when you cook it, it doesn't smell so strong, like that funny smell. It's so like that.
Remember, the kosher butchers will have a rabbi standing there. The reason it's kosher, and the reason it's more expensive when you go to a kosher whatever, when you get that bet-in stamp on the back, okay, it's literally a B and a D with a, kind of looks, it's like a triangle, like with sideways. Okay, you'll see a lot of it even on peanuts and things like that. They literally send out a rabbi to go stand over there and he watches the process. You go to a kosher butchery, there's a rabbi standing there watching and making sure they drain that meat properly, making sure that it's there, making sure that it's transported properly, make sure it touches nothing unclean, make sure it gets to the place, make sure it's packaged and put in, and then it arrives at your butcher. Okay? The reason they do that is because they want to be sure, to be sure, to be sure, to be sure. Okay? So that you will have an extreme amount of people, that you want to know why it's so expensive. It's purely because you have people watching it to make sure, because they take it very seriously, obviously, like we do, when you're worrying about your kosher food. You're worrying about, is this meat okay? Has it been, and remember, I had to go back and I had to look. Kosher is not just about what animal you eat, it's how it's killed. Kosher is also, you know, making sure that you've got to watch out for cross-contaminations and things like that. So you have a look and you start to investigate and you look at things and eventually, you know, you really have to find out. Like I had to go back and I started looking at how South African butchers or abattoirs kill and slaughter and what, and you know, how they strain it. And that's when I found out the standards that they use in the Bible. It has to be bled out, it has to be drained, it has to be hung for so many days. They all fall within kosher parameters except for that of pigs. Okay? You know, and like I said, shared with you before, in the States, it is the American standard to strangle pigs to death rather than bleed them out. So not only is it an unkosher animal, it's also killed in a very inhumane way. So it's a double unkosher animal. Okay? For whatever reason they do this. Alright. When someone from the community of Israel, one of the foreigners living with you, hunts and catches game, whether animal or bird, that may be eaten, he is to pour out its blood and cover it. He has to drain it and make sure that the flies and everything don't get in there and make maggots and all those nice wonderful things. He cannot cut it, skin it, nor the rest of it if he's out in the field and then take it to his fridge and not be built. Okay? Certain things breed in flesh thereof. That is why God will say, if it is, you know, I think it stands to be corrected, anything that even is cooked after the third day, you get rid of. You don't eat that. It becomes roadkill. Okay? Because it starts to frost. We're dealing in an age where they don't have fridges and stuff like that. Okay? So he needs to make sure that they just don't cut away the little piece that they think is rotting and then eat the rest of it. Okay? Yeah. Therefore I said to the people of Israel, you are not to eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is in its blood. Whoever eats it will be cut off. Anyone eating an animal that dies naturally or is torn to death by wild animals, whether he is a citizen or foreigner, is to wash his clothes and bathe themselves in water. He will be unclean until evening. Then he will be clean. If he doesn't wash or bathe his body, he will bear the consequences of his body. If you come across an animal that is dead lying in the road, it's sort of like the rabbinic interpretation of this is very simple. If you're starving to death, God will commit you to eat something unclean. Why? Because you're only unclean until you. Okay? It is literally to keep you sustained. If you do not have any other choice, walking along, dead cow in the road, you do not know what killed that animal. How do you know there's not a disease?
It makes me think of like, there's a movie we watched when people crash in the snow and some dies, that's, you know.
That's a whole other thing.
Hello, Clarice.
It's like another white meat.
They had to, how else did they survive?
No, that's
Stuck
not
in the
good.
snow.
You don't survive.
Eat your own leg.
I really love Max pasta sauce.
One thing I was quite impressed with was, I think it was one book called, the name now, this was the rabbi. This actually his wife that writes the book, after he passed away. And he was in World War II, in the concentration camps. And right through that whole time, one of the things that he would not do is would not eat kosher. And God provided for him.
Just to terrorize you guys, remember when we were doing that whole mass interrogation about what's unclean and clean, and I asked you guys to give me different scriptures and things like that. I said I was going to come back to, I think it was Genesis 9. But just to reiterate Dave's interesting point. Genesis 9, from verse 5.
It's not from Paul.
I've got money too. Alright. It says, remember, Noah's come out and he's got that, he's got all these animals, remember. A pair of every unclean animals. So you have 2 piggies, 2 giraffes, 2 lions, whatever. And depending on the interpretation of what you steer to, you either have 7, literally the number of 7 clean animals, or 14 clean animals. Okay? Different interpretations they say the way the Hebrew structure is very difficult to tell which one it was. Okay? Some guys will argue that it was 7 because of an offering. I'll get into it now. But he comes out and then God changes stuff. He goes, says to him, every moving thing that lives will be food for you, just as I have given you green plants before, so now I give you everything. Only flesh with its life, which is in its blood, you are not to eat. So even this blood thing came all the way back from Noah. Right? Does that mean that you can eat whatever you want?
No, because you go back.
Okay? We have a couple of interesting basic arguments. If you are not sure what he was thinking about, a little later he makes an offering. Okay? This is, if he was going to make an offering, again, we asked the question, how did he know to make an offering, number one? How did we know what to sacrifice on that altar, number two? So Torah must have been common knowledge back then. So same as Abraham. Abraham taught or taught his household God's ways, and God loved him for it. There was no Torah back then. So what did he teach him? Must have been common knowledge. Okay? So Torah was not basically, invented around Sinai. It was there before. Okay? Now we're sitting here and we're looking at this argument and we're saying, and I've heard this stated from people that I respect, saying, well, God said everything on the earth is there for you to eat and be merry. My first concern, would pigs be around if the first thing he grabbed was a pig? You'll do! Yay! Oh, sorry. There's only one left. Population 0. If you offered up any unclean animal, it would not have a mate anymore, so therefore it would be extinct.
That's what happened to dinosaurs.
Yes, he grabbed a T-Rex and threw it on the Right? Second problem is, why didn't he take one of his children and put it on the altar? Everything that has flesh is for you to eat and be merry. Didn't eat his children. Didn't make like their friends and just go, no. Well, I didn't really like the naughty one. The naughty one will definitely have to be eaten first. Do not see you guys making a case to chase your friends down here, though you will look fantastic on a spit ride. Okay? If they used an unclean animal, that unclean animal would literally be extinct today. So you cannot make the case. Number one. Number two, if we were using that type of thinking, then cannibalism would be okay because it's all flesh, that's all. You knew what was unclean and clean. Alright? So, even from that point, God will hold the citizen and the foreigner, people who are staying in Israel, will live by the laws of Israel. You who are Israel, how much more so? You are grafted in. So, you will have to keep the mitzvah. Okay? Alright, this is the point where all the kidneys run away.
Just one last thing I want to mention. If you look there in 2 verse 2, Genesis says, you shall take you send there's a picture of every female. Male and female.
So some rabbis will say it was 14 because it said they came into budget. And other rabbis will say God already knew that he was going to make an offering, so what God permitted was he allowed 7, so that one would be taken, and yet there would still be made from that, the other 6 would still be free. Okay? So kind of you can argue both ways. They're not 100% sure.
I'm saying that it says there what is clean and what is not.
Absolutely.
Maybe seeds of every green herb, you know what I mean? Some poisonous green thing.
Yes.
God's already specified. There's
You should eat Michael. Everything's going to be fine. You don't have to worry about question marks. I like stirring the pot. Just, while we're there, I'm going to ask you guys something. Would you consider, this is something that, this is not me talking, this is not me teaching. We've been having this real big debacle about, what's organic and what's not organic, and, we actually took a look at Tanya as very much an instance of, okay, what they're injecting into animals, the antibiotics and the growth hormones and all the rest of it is now inhumane. Okay, you basically have these fat chickens within a couple of weeks or months. And then all of a sudden their hearts are like this teeny, and we actually had a friend of ours that got a job for Rainbow Chickens, I think it was. One of the big chicken outlets anyway. walks into the chicken coop, it's all nice and quiet and all the rest of it. The guy walks in and he goes, you will not make noise in this place. Why? This is weird. He says, I'm only going to show you this once. And he goes in and he goes, ah! And about, I think it was 20 or 30 chickens dropped down there. Because of the shock, their heart couldn't take it. Their bodies are so big and cannot be supported by the little heart because of all the gross stuff they feed into the West. Okay, so Tanya's been on this very much of the, you need to be careful what you put into your body because of this and this is not right. The question I want you guys to think about, and this is us just talking, is would you consider that an animal, a clean animal to be pumped for growth hormones and to put through all that as kosher or not kosher? Getting deep. Yeah? Because funny enough, yeah, it's still chicken, it's still a clean animal. But if God is worrying about the slaughtering of the animal to make sure it's humane and the blood is taken care of, remember, strangulation is a very slow, horrific way to die and it also releases all toxins and all the rest of it. But
We
it's
must
not humane.
all become vegetarians.
Or you go organic. I'm just asking a question. I want you guys to think about it.
Fortune to go.
So,
And we're being
that's-
far from the day. Never mind organic.
We should try and go to a kosher butcher, which is also another thing. We actually found out, I found a couple of kosher butchers, and we said to them, all right, you know, do you guys do the antibiotics, do you do this and this? And said, no, they keep on, they're doing this. Okay? So they're not, in a sense, also completely organic to the place where this can be taken away, which is something.
So the you said the
Just wanted to-
Sorry.
Going into some naughty details. Yeah. No children for this. If you are watching this video, please chase your children away. This is PG.
Let's make our
More PG than usual.
18.
Yeah, well, Levticus 18, yes, you are very
Correct. Or 18.
No, or 18. Alright. Something to think about. Alright. Otherwise, said to Moshe. So remember, he goes from Yom Kippur. Now he told you about clean and unclean animals. He told you about what's acceptable as food. He goes into Yom Kippur. Remember, the sacrificial system was before that. And now all of a sudden, he goes, don't eat blood. And then he drops this bomb in the midst of this portion. Speak to the children of Israel and tell them, I am Adonai your God. Statement number 1. Again, everything that is listed in Torah will normally always tie back to an idolatrous nation is doing something very unkosher. And we need to now tell you that is not how you will act anymore. You are not of Egypt's stock, you are of me. I am your God, therefore you will live by my rules, my statutes, my instructions. Do you accept? Yes, we do. Thank you very much. The fact that it's a ketubah as well should add more to the heart of the statement. Okay? You are not to engage in the activities found in the land of Egypt where you used to live. And you're not to engage in the activities found in the land of Canaan, where I'm bringing you. Nor are you to live by their laws. You are to obey my rulings, my laws, and live accordingly. I am Adonai your God. You to observe my laws and rulings. If a person does them, then he will have life through them. I am Adonai. I'm God, I'm God, I'm God. This is good for you. Do not act like them. The reason you're being prepared, listen to me in that picture. The reason you're being prepared is to be a light to the world. Because you need to give these people God. And you will live according to my rulings, according to my ways, so that you will bring light. Do not put your foot half in the world, half in God. You cannot live this way. Okay? God is preparing. None of you is to approach anyone who is a close relative in order to have sexual relations. I am Adonai. So, family incestual relations, no.
Was this what they did at the time? Is this why it's
Egypt,
stipulated?
Canaan, and remember, when you start looking at the fertility rites, okay? Egypt was dodgy, but it's not, they weren't as bad as Canaan and what was going on, okay? I've yet to find any inscription that said they acted out of it, but they also had no problem marrying family members and things like that, okay? But when it really gets degraded,
I think Moses' mother was also married to a cousin.
you'll have to check. But these things are You've got to be careful to watch fertility rates.
I believe it was okay up to a point, but because I mean, in the beginning they married brothers and sisters. But I think the
Well,
blood,
half.
I mean, you look at in the very beginning,
Oh,
with the brothers and
Mm.
sisters.
Oh, yes, that's also.
And then as it
Genesis.
went on, it wasn't a point up until now where God said, okay, no more of that. I think the big reason of this is also because of the blood, the DNA getting really.
Yes.
It's not just a family tree we're talking about, Jim. This is also talking about fertility clocks.
Okay.
Alright? Give you an example. Pharaoh decided he will marry his sister because, you know, she's also of Ra, and therefore we will make a pure race and a pure heir. And you know, just include nature's sister.